Call to order of a regular meeting of the Goodyear City Council, November 17, 2008. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Lord, please provide enlightenment to the council and staff this evening and protect our men and women who are safeguarding the lives of their Goodyear residents. And we want to also pray for those serving overseas in U.S. uniform in Afghanistan, Iraq, and other places, and protect them as well, please. Amen.
Amen.
All of our council members are in attendance. Councilmember Souza is on the phone. We have no expenditures to ratify. We have no communications. Opportunity now for any citizen to comment on any subject which is not on this evening's agenda. Would anyone like to comment on a non-agenda item? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to the consent. I'll ask the city clerk to read consent items A through L by title only, please.
A. Approve draft minutes of a work session, a special meeting, and a regular meeting held on October 27, 2008, and draft minutes of a work session and a special meeting held on November 3, 2008. Item B. Approve a request from Nathan Torres, representing the City of Goodyear, for a Series 5 liquor license number 050-73027 for the City of Goodyear Ballpark, located at 1933 South Ballpark Way, Goodyear. Item C, approve the request for a use permit to allow a convenience use on a 1.62-acre parcel generally located at the southwest corner of Yuma Road and Cotton Lane in the Cotton Flower Marketplace Commercial Center, subject to stipulations. Item D, approve a special use application to allow a preschool facility in the agricultural urban zoning district generally located on the east side of Saraville Avenue, approximately 1/4 mile north of Van Buren Street, subject to stipulations. Item E, adopt ordinance 08-1145, extending and increasing the corporate limits of the City of Goodyear, Maricopa County, State of Arizona, pursuant to the provisions of Title IX, Chapter 4, Article 7, Arizona Revised Statutes, and amendments thereto by annexing the Cotton Lane right-of-way from McDowell Road to Indian School Road, which is contiguous to the existing city limits of the City of Goodyear. Item F, adopt ordinance 08-1146, extending and increasing the corporate limits of the City of Goodyear, Maricopa County, State of Arizona, pursuant to the provisions of Title IX, Chapter 4, Article 7, Arizona Revised Statutes, and amendments thereto by annexing the Camelback Road right-of-way from Cotton Lane to Village Parkway, which is contiguous to the existing city limits of the City of Goodyear. Item G, adopt ordinance 08-1147, extending and increasing the corporate limits of the City of Goodyear, Maricopa County, State of Arizona, pursuant to the provisions of Title IX, Chapter 4, Article 7, Arizona Revised Statutes, and amendments thereto by annexing the Indian School Road right-of-way from Cotton Lane to Loop 303, which is contiguous to the existing city limits of the City of Goodyear. Item H, adopt ordinance 08-1148, extending and increasing the corporate limits of the City of Goodyear, Maricopa County, State of Arizona, pursuant to the provisions of Title IX, Chapter 4, Article 7, Arizona Revised Statutes, and amendments thereto by annexing the Cotton Lane right-of-way from Indian School Road to Camelback Road, which is contiguous to the existing city limits of the City of Goodyear. Item I, adopt ordinance 08-1149, extending and increasing the corporate limits of the City of Goodyear, Maricopa County, State of Arizona, pursuant to the provisions of Title IX, Chapter 4, Article 7, Arizona Revised Statutes, and amendments thereto by annexing the Indian School Road right-of-way from Citrus Road to Cotton Lane, which is contiguous to the existing city limits of the City of Goodyear. Item J, adopt ordinance 08-1150, extending and increasing the corporate limits of the City of Goodyear, Maricopa County, State of Arizona, pursuant to the provisions of Title IX, Chapter 4, Article 7, Arizona Revised Statutes and amendments thereto by annexing the Thomas Road right-of-way from Cotton Lane to Loop 303, which is contiguous to the existing city limits of the city of Goodyear. Item K, authorize staff to enter into an amendment to contract number CON-CX-0976-07 with Barton Mallow Company for construction manager at Risk Construction Phase Services for Phase 2 of the Goodyear Recreational Complex, Cincinnati Reds Development Complex, guaranteed maximum price, 1, in an amount not to exceed $11,954,583. Item L, authorize the city manager to execute a contract with Smart Use LLC for the proposed citywide residential audit program.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone in the public wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Anyone in the public? Seeing none, would anyone on council wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Member Cavalier?
Yes, item K, if you will, Mayor. I need to recuse myself from that item.
Okay.
It's a possible conflict of interest.
All right, we'll just hold on that for a second.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay, then why don't, could I get a motion then to approve, well, yeah, let's A through what? J, and then L, right?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion to approve A through J and L. Could I have a roll call vote, please?
Vice Mayor Antoniak,
Aye.
Councilmember Sousa,
Aye.
Councilmember Cavalier,
Aye.
Councilmember Lord,
Aye.
Councilmember Holland,
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne,
Aye.
Mayor Kavanaugh,
Aye.
passes 7-0.
Okay, thank you. And Councilmember Cavalier is recusing himself, and we'll move to K. Any discussion on K? Can I have a motion to approve K?
So moved.
Second.
A motion from Councilmember Holland and a second from Vice Mayor Antoniak. Well, does that need a roll call vote? It doesn't, does it?
No.
All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, 6-0. And Councilmember Cavalier is returning to the dais. Okay, we'll now move to the business part of our agenda, and first item is public hearing to consider adoption of a resolution authorizing the submission of 2 applications for community development block grants for fiscal year 2009 and 10. And I'll open the public hearing, and Matt Henson.
Good evening, Mayor, member of City Council. I'm here before you again to discuss community development block grants and home housing rehab grants. The next round of funding is open. As you know, we apply for this funding through Maricopa County Community Development through their Urban County program. We participate with about a dozen other localities and then unincorporated county areas. There are 2 funding sources, community development block grants and home housing rehab. It's a competitive annual process where we compete against the other 12 communities. This year they're estimating about $2 million for CDBG and $630,000 for home. As the federal government is still under a continuing resolution, these are purely ballpark guesses at this point. Projects that we apply for have to be in our 5-year consolidated plan. This is the last year or year 5 of our current consolidated plan. And the deadline for these applications is December 15th. If we're fortunate enough to be funded, the money will be available to the city to start using July 1st of next year. The 2 community development block grant projects that we're proposing this year, and again, they have to be in our 5-year strategic plan, so we're very limited as to what we could actually apply for this year. The first is another historic Goodyear infrastructure improvement project. This is a continuation of the historic Goodyear water line process that was done earlier this year. This is phase 2. We'll do about another half mile of pipe in the historic neighborhood. This is main water lines in the street, service connections to the houses, and then restoration of the pavement when the project's completed. In the amount of $475,000 is what we're applying for. The second project under CDBG is another infrastructure project. This, however, is installing a new security wall around Pump 1 at Palmateer Park. Water Resources has some improvements made to the Pump 1 site, and instead of simply putting up the current fence back around it, this would be a more secure masonry wall that would go around that site and would hopefully be a little more aesthetically pleasing than what's there currently. And for that project, we're applying for $100,000. The Community Development Block Grant Program does not require a local match. However, it is helpful. We'll be showing that the city is leveraging funds from the work that Water Resources is doing, some projects that are in our CIP and elsewhere. For CDBG, we do not apply because we have a low and moderate income census tract. We apply because we have a designated redevelopment area that's generally around the historic Goodyear area. This next year, we'll have an opportunity to look at that redevelopment area and see if we need to expand it, move its boundaries, or do any other changes to it. Both of these projects will result in more reliable service, better water pressure, better fire protection, public safety in general, and water conservation. For home, this is a program we did not apply for last year, but the proposed home project is the resumption of the city's housing rehab program. To date, since about the early 90s, the city has completed 88 housing rehabilitation projects, totaling an investment of just over $2 million in the historic Goodyear neighborhood. This year, actually in the last about 12 months, there's been a lot of interest in the city resuming this program. Mostly, homeowners who have some significant housing rehab issues are feeling the pressure of, do I replace a hot water heater and my air conditioning system, or do I pay other bills? So we're hoping by resuming this program we can help out some homeowners, and if all goes well, not only keep them in their homes but make their houses energy efficient and more affordable for them in the long run. The city's requesting $100,000 for this next fiscal year, and with that money, every house is going to be a little bit different about how much rehab it needs, but we're looking at 3 to 4 homes being rehabbed. And again, with a focus on energy efficiency, whether it's Energy Star appliances, increased insulation, new windows, whatever whatever it might take. The home project does require a local cash match of 25%. This money will be programmed in the grant match account next year. We won't need this match until July 1st of next year. The program will be run by a nonprofit housing agency to both screen the applicants and oversee the renovation and construction on those homes. And we are actively working on developing partnerships with other cities who run these sort of programs, and also with nonprofit housing agencies. Again, the projects identified as part of the public hearing, we have to discuss the public participation. These projects have been in our consolidated plan, which has gone before the public several times. It was last updated in the spring of 2007. Again, this is year 5. This coming spring, we'll have an opportunity to draft a brand new 5-year plan. The Waterline project has been discussed at numerous neighborhood meetings, and with the Phase 1 improvements this spring, there was newsletters sent out, door hangers, quite a bit of communication between the city and the residents about the project. And as far as the Palmateer Park project, Community Services has just gone through a series of notifications informing the residents of the work that's going to be done at that pump site in Palmateer Park. Staff recommendation is for you to adopt the resolution, which will allow me to submit the grant applications on December 15th to the county, and trying to get through this as quickly as possible. I just want to thank Council Members Cavalier and Councilmember Osborne for serving, representing the city on the CDAC, the various city departments that helped me develop the budget and timeline estimates for these applications, and then the neighborhood and community groups have helped identify these projects in the past. And with that.
Okay, thank you, Ron. Are there any comments from the public? Any comments from the public? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, and I'll ask the clerk to read the resolution by title only.
Adopt Resolution 08-1277 of the Mayor and Council of the City of Goodyear, Maricopa County, Arizona, authorizing the submission of 2 applications for FY 2009-2010 Community Development Block Grant Program funds, and 1 application for the FY 2009-1010 Home Program funds to the Maricopa County Community Development Department, and authorizing the city manager to execute all documents relating to said applications.
Thank you. Could I have a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Councilmember Lord and a second from Vice Mayor Antoniak. It's open for discussion. Okay. Could I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Sousa.
Aye.
Councilmember Cavalier.
Aye.
Councilmember Lord.
Aye.
Councilmember Holland.
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Antoniak.
Aye.
Mayor Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You want to speak first, Joe, or before I open the public hearing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We're doing the next, well, you take it, Joe, you got it.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Wanted to make just a couple of introductory remarks before we embark on the general plan amendments for 2008. You'll be considering 6 general plan amendments tonight. And as you know, the primary difference between a minor amendment and a major amendment is that the major amendments are considered only once a year. They're done all at the same meeting so that we can kind of look at the cumulative effects of the major amendments. And they must be reviewed at 2 public hearings prior to coming to the council. And 2 public hearings were held at 2 separate locations as required by the statute before the Planning and Zoning Commission. And finally, any motion to approve a major general plan amendment must pass by a 2/3 vote of the governing body. So that means it must have at least 5 out of 7 votes in favor of a motion to approve. All of the major general plan amendments that are before you tonight have been processed in accordance with the state statute. Of these 6 cases, 5 of them were submitted as part of the annual cycle for 2008, and 1 is a carryover from actually 2006 that carried into 2007, and hopefully we'll get it out of the way. I was going to say before the end of 2008, but we're going to postpone it again, and so it'll slip into 2009, but I think we're going to get it resolved finally. In total, they involve over 6,700 acres, and if approved, they would add over 6,000 acres or 9.6 square miles to the city's municipal planning area, and then the total area for the city's municipal planning area would be 255.48 square miles. The net effect of the amendments will be to convert 435 acres from residential to industrial use and another 132 acres to commercial use. The combined effect of the amendments on the city's population would be to increase the build-out population by about 2%, or approximately 13,000 residents. But even with the addition of over 5,100 dwelling units, the gross density will be less than 1 dwelling unit per acre in the combined request because of the additional land being added to the city's municipal planning area. Overall, the proposed amendments have been judged to be appropriate, and the recommendations by the Planning and Zoning Commission and the city staff will be presented for each of the proposed amendments, and starting with the request for Goodyear 142 presented by Anna Lackender. And so with that, I'd like to turn it over for the presentation of Anna as soon as you open the public hearing.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next item on our agenda, again, this is the first of 6 on amendments to the general plan. First is a public hearing to consider adoption of a resolution for a major amendment to the Goodyear general plan for Goodyear 142, and I'm opening the public hearing. Anna?
Thank you, Mayor Kavanaugh, members of the council. On the projector, you can see the existing and proposed land use maps for the Goodyear 142 major general plan amendment. Here's the existing map for the general plan. It is on the south side of MC 85, and this is the Saraville Avenue alignment extended southward. As you can see, the general plan currently designates the subject property as low-density residential with 2 to 4 density units per acre. The Goodyear 142 general plan amendment proposes 25 acres of medium-high density residential, as you can see here, and 117 acres of light industrial, signified by the purple. You can also see on this map the corridor for the SR 801 freeway. ADOT has not chosen an exact location for the SR 801 freeway, but in this area, all of the alternatives ADOT has identified for further study follow this general alignment. Existing surrounding land uses and zoning designations include to the north is the Goodyear Crossing Industrial Park, zoned general industrial. To the south is vacant land with the Buckeye Irrigation District Canal and the general plan land use designation of low medium density residential. To the east is vacant land general plan use designation light industrial, and to the west is vacant land with general plan land use designation of low medium density residential. For the Goodyear 142 major general plan amendment, staff recommends the City Council approve the proposed GPA. Staff finds the proposed land uses to be appropriate, and the medium-high density residential can serve as a transitional land use between the light industrial to the east and the residential to the west. Staff is available to answer any questions. Additionally, Kevin Kugler with RBF Consulting is here to answer any questions as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any comments from the public? Any comments from the public? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, and I'll ask the clerk to read the resolution by title only.
Adopt Resolution Number 08-1273, approving a major amendment to the Goodyear General Plan 2003-2013 to amend the planned land uses for Goodyear 142 containing 142 acres located south of MC 85 and west of the Saraful Avenue alignment from low-density residential to medium-high density residential and light industrial, as shown on Exhibit 5 of the document entitled Goodyear 142 Major General Plan Amendment, dated October 30th, 2008, and providing an effective date.
Okay, could I have a motion, please?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the resolution as read by the clerk.
Second.
I have a motion from Vice Mayor Antoniak and a second from Councilmember Holland. It's open for discussion. Councilmember Cavalier?
Yes, I'm concerned. Convince me that high-density housing belongs in an area of that is high industrial or major industrial area. And how is that compatible? And I guess maybe you can convince me on that.
Well, Councilmember Cavalier, Mayor Kavanaugh, members of the council, the applicant proposed the medium-high density residential, and staff felt it was a good transitional use to the proposed residential to the west. It was a good transitional use for the site.
Now, will that area then to the west, will whomever owns that, I think that's still part of the Lakin property, I believe, but anyway, whoever that ends up being developed by, will they come to us and want a change, a designation in that? See, my concern is having high-density residential in that kind of a neighborhood just doesn't seem to me to be a sustainable kind of residential community. And it isn't going to be high-end residential. I'm certain of that. And I'm concerned about the sustainability of that particular residential area. So I'm not sure I'm sold on that as being the best suited for that particular area. I know we need some high density close to our industrial, but that's smack in the middle of it, and I'm concerned, very concerned that is not appropriate. That's all I can say.
Would you make a recommendation, alternative use for that?
Well, I think it should be kept either as low density, as we had talked about earlier, that would coincide with what is on the west side of that, or make that all light industrial. I think either alternative would work, but high density, I'm concerned about that being a Skid Row apartment complex. And I hate to put it that way, but I don't know how else to explain it.
Yeah, I don't think it'll happen that way. But Kevin, would you like to add a comment?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Kevin Kugler with RBF Consulting, and Councilman Cavalier, I assure you my client has no intentions of bringing a Skid Row level apartment complex by any means. As we've been evaluating the site, as you know, Councilman Cavalier, for years and years, this property's been bandied about like a ping pong ball of sorts with trying to find a proper land use. And I think the land use that we're bringing forward is extremely responsive to kind of the changing dynamics of the area with the advent of the 801 freeway. And we're going from a property that has 140 acres of 2 to 4 single-family residential, which is arguably a least compatible land use along the proposed freeway corridor, with something that's going to be a little bit more flexible with making a proper arrangement and, as Anna suggested, a transition of land uses from the light industrial corridor as you continue to the east and moving to that transition to the Lakin property, and probably an option there for them to be reevaluating their land uses as well based on their, though I can't speak for them, obviously. There's an opportunity to transition that, and at the end of the day, we're talking about a reduction in the overall number of units that was allowable under the existing preliminary PAD that's on the property for 2 to 4 units to the acre. So as this employment corridor burgeons and more employees are coming to the area, so too does the need for diversity of housing. That is for sure. And this is something along the lines of 10 to 16 units to the acre. It's not a high-density apartment complex in terms of trying to visually define that land use footprint, which we would have the opportunity to present before you at a future zoning action. It's merely a land use question at this point. And in working with staff over the last several months of trying to gravitate to the right land use, I think collectively, I think anyway, that we've landed on it.
Do you see this as a court homes or just smaller homes on individual lots, or 2-story condos? I mean, what is the plan in that?
Mayor and Councilman Cavalier, with the current state of the market, it's difficult to ascertain exactly, but our client is more as consistent with the general plan for a higher density attached housing product or a multifamily type of product, a suburban scale 2-story apartment complex. It could be condos, it could be tenant based, it could be single family attached, but providing that mixture proximate to the mobility of the corridor, MC 85 corridor, much akin to what the general plan provides for, providing accessibility of higher density residential uses in close proximity to employment and transportation corridors. I think we felt, and I think staff did a good job of outlining in their staff report how that is consistent with many of the precepts of the general plan.
Now, I'm not concerned with how that will hold in value now, but I am concerned when the year 2020 comes along, when the 801 comes through, and we've got a big freeway there adjoining that. Person owning that home may want to sell and find that their property values have gone down because the freeway has come through. I guess those are some of my concerns, that it won't happen, the devaluation of that probably won't happen right away, but there's a potential for it down the road, and that's my concern. It's going to be after we're gone, but this is we can't leave the city with that.
Mayor and Councilman Cavalier, I think there's a lot of concerns like that with the current state of the market. It's hard to see what the crystal ball is going to be in 5 months, let alone 2021. I'm just merely suggesting that this is a much more flexible land use and something that's more consistent than what's on the books today, quite frankly. I think it's...
Well, historically, this is what's happened in a lot of areas like that, in suburban Midwest and back east big cities. So I don't want that to happen here. So that's my concern.
Would you want to make a motion?
Well,
We have a
our
motion on the
would be
table to approve the resolution.
Mayor? Can I say something? Just hold that thought, Frank, just a
Okay.
second. I understand your concerns. I mean, actually, this little property has a lot of obstacles, quite frankly. I mean, it's
Yes,
got
it
the
does.
MC-85, it's got the possible I-10 reliever, it's in a floodplain, it has a gas line that goes through it, it has power lines that go through it, and now it's going to be located next to an industrial area. That's a lot of problems.
It is.
I'm happier that we're going to change it to industrial from being all the full scale
Yeah.
lower residential, but I hear you, Frank, on that sliver of high density. Possibly instead it should be a lower density buffering. What is that other sliver next to it? You got high density and then you have sliver and then you have high density. What's that in between? What's
That's
that
low
lighter
density.
brown? What is that?
That's a low density.
Is that low density?
Directly to the east,
To the
right.
west.
to the west,
To the
excuse
west.
me. Yes,
That's
that's on
low
the,
density.
that's on the adjacent property. It's 4 to 6 units to the acre.
Okay, so I think leaving that ground sliver of high density to lower density myself, I would be more inclined to agree with that. But yeah, it has a lot of obstacles, there's no doubt.
Well, do you want to make a motion? Do either of you want to make a motion?
Everybody.
And we'll discuss that particular thought.
Well, I don't know how to fix it, except to say that it should possibly all of that should be, the amendment should say that it should all be industrial, light industrial. Is that what that is, light industrial for the remaining?
Okay, we'll await that motion. Vice Mayor, did you want to comment?
Well, I think, you look back on the general plan and having, we were all involved in it in one way, shape, or form. We always looked to a higher density housing product next to light industrial because that actually was a better buffer than a lower density housing project, much like what we saw, and I forget the community, but directly adjacent, the crematory, special use permit. That was a lower density product against a light industrial area with an objectionable use to those residents, and it wasn't compatible. Is that to say a crematory would be more compatible with an apartment complex? Perhaps not. But a light industrial product seems to be more compatible with a residential product that maybe doesn't cater to permanent residency, or maybe has a different end user in mind. I don't know, but I just remember from my days on the general plan that we always talked about having higher density housing next to light industrial. So this didn't concern me as much as it concerns Councilmember Cavalier and Osborne. I was perfectly content with this. I actually liked. What I like about this amendment is it does respond to the transportation corridor directly adjacent, as it's got light industrial, which from my experience in transportation is a much more compatible use as you're planning a freeway and as you're moving a transportation corridor through. As is a higher density housing product, believe it or not. It's more compatible. They're going to have a lot more mitigation towards noise and that sort of thing already built into the environment around them. So I'm content with the amendment as it stands and the way the applicant came to us. So I just wanted to voice that before we put out a amendment to the motion.
No, I agree. But we need to give the two, either one, the option, and then we'll discuss it. I'm not disagreeing with you.
Well, Mayor, if I
Okay, Frank, go for it.
Yeah, as I said, I think Rob hit the nail on the head. Yes, there is much more turnover in the residents in a high density like that because they come and go. If it's going to be a rental property, and that's probably what most of it will be, then with the high turnover, again, you've really got to watch that property and make certain that.
But do you want to make a motion?
Well, I don't know how to fix it other than to say I would rather there wasn't.
You want it to
That
be all
was
industrial?
still, I would like to see that all industrial. Now, how do I
Just say that.
just make that? All right. I'd like to make an amendment that we make this plot totally light industrial as is requested of the remaining portion of that,
Okay.
which is what?
Is that okay? As a motion?
If I may, Mayor, be indulged the council to request, if that's indeed the direction the council wants to go, it's a little bit of a surprise to us as we've been working with staff for months.
But all we're doing is taking a motion.
No, well,
Is the motion clear to you?
Yeah, it may not
the
even
motion's
go.
clear.
That's the
Yes,
important
motion's
thing.
clear.
Okay, the motion is clear. Okay, I have a motion on the floor to change this from industrial, high-density, mixed use to strictly industrial use. Correct?
Correct.
Okay, is there a second? The motion fails for a
Yeah, I
second.
didn't think there would be. Okay.
Councilmember Osborne.
Okay. So the light tan is a density of 2 to 4?
10.
4 to 6.
No.
4 to 6.
Sorry.
Okay. So, I guess what I'm stating is that rather than being the high density 10 to 16 units per acre, that it reflects what's currently of that little sliver of 2 to 4, 4 to 6, whatever you said.
Saying 4 to 6.
4 to 6.
4 to 6.
That with the light industrial next to it, so it's still a continuing.
You going to make an amendment?
That's my Is that a motion? That's my motion.
Okay. We have a motion to leave the industrial the way it is and change the residential to 4 to 6, vice, what is it, 10 to 16, did you say?
10 to 20 is the category.
Okay, is that clear, the motion?
Yes.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Okay, it's now open for further discussion. Any discussion that we haven't heard already?
Not that we haven't heard already.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor of the amendment to the motion signify by stating aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed to the amendment to the motion signify by saying nay. Nay. Mr. Souza?
Nay.
I believe it's 5-2.
Okay.
Okay. All right, thank you. Could I now have a vote on the motion itself? Is there any further discussion on the motion, actually? The main motion. Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye, please.
Aye.
Mayor, we
Opposed?
need a roll call.
Nay.
Is this a roll?
Yeah.
Resolution?
Oh, it's a resolution.
Okay, all right.
Oh,
Should I have done a resolution on the, should I have done a roll call on the amendment? No. Okay.
that's okay.
All right, so we have a resolution. I apologize. It's a roll call vote. Seeing no further discussion, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Cavalier.
Nay.
Councilmember Lord.
Aye.
Councilmember Holland.
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne.
Nay.
Vice Mayor Antoniak.
Aye.
Councilmember Sousa.
Nay.
And Mayor Kavanaugh.
Aye.
It fails. 5-3.
Dick, understand the vote?
No, I think Dick was the third nay, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so we have 4 ayes.
It
You
fails.
need, you need
You have
5.
to have 2/3?
Let's do
Okay.
2/3.
Does Dick know that?
Councilmember Souza, could you explain your vote, please?
Yes, I feel that what has been designed by the proposed developer is adequate for the city. And to change this and going against the P&C would be basically a slap in the face to that organization. So that's the reason I'm voting no on this.
Okay, let me just clarify. The amendment to the motion, the original motion, which was agreed to by P&Z and the staff, the amendment to that motion was denied, failed. In fact, there were 2. No, one motion that was actually voted on. It failed. We are now back to the original motion, which is in accord with the staff and the P&Z recommendation. And a aye or yes vote would support that resolution. A nay would not support that resolution. Are you expressing a yes or a no?
Who are you directing your question to?
I can't hear him.
Is he?
He's asking,
Is
it's to you, Dick.
Pardon me?
He's asking.
he in support of the staff's
Yeah.
recommendation?
Are you in support of the staff's recommendation?
Yes, I am.
That's it.
Okay, let's do a roll call vote again.
Okay.
But he has to know that has to be an aye vote. Maybe.
Well-
Don't know. He's gonna
Councilmember
support it.
Cavalier.
Nay.
Councilmember Lord.
Aye.
Councilmember Holland.
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Antoniak.
Aye.
Councilmember Sousa.
Aye.
Mayor Kavanaugh.
Aye,
Passes 5-2.
and it has the
Get there.
requisite
Yes.
5 votes. Okay. Thank you.
You want to keep the date, but
Thank you for the clarification there, Mayor.
that's what this side. So what are we on?
Okay, we'll now move to a public hearing to consider adoption of a resolution for a major amendment to the Goodyear General Plan to revise text to clarify what constitutes a minor or major general plan amendment. I'll open the public hearing and pass it to Joe.
B.
Mr. Mayor, council members, as we've administered the general plan over the last 5 years, we've found there were instances where the section involving what determines a minor amendment and major amendment was sometimes difficult to interpret. And we trace this back to when tables 2.4 and 2.5 were initially created. The tables were supposed to kind of work in concert, and we found that there were instances where the tables kind of worked against each other, and so that we felt was a problem. So that caused us to propose the text amendment that's before you tonight. There are actually 3 things that we're trying to address in this. One is an apparent misplacement of some of the bullet points in the text, which is really just kind of a minor housekeeping thing, which really isn't a problem, or shouldn't be a problem to correct. The second, though, is the relationship between tables 2.4 and 2.5 and whether they should be used independently or in some combined manner. As it reads right now, it says you're supposed to look at tables 2.4 and 2.5 independently, and if it says it's a major amendment in either table, then it's a major amendment. And what that does is it creates a situation where it may be a major amendment in table 2.5, where most everything is considered a major amendment, when table 2.4 meant to exclude certain types of requests, particularly the ones like under 20 acres. So we wanted to try to resolve that by basically saying that the tables would be used independently, somewhat semi-independently, and if it said it was for it to be a major amendment, it had to be a major amendment in both tables, or a minor amendment in both tables, and then if it was listed as one in one table or the other in the other table, we would take the lesser of the two. So if it was a major in one, minor in the other, we'd go minor. And then if it was minor or no amendment, we'd go no. The third area we were trying to address is the amount of acreage as defined in the tables as being the amount of acreage in the PAD itself versus the amount of acreage that's proposed for change. And I put this chart in your packet, which I don't know if it helped or hurt. Because it is just kind of a difficult concept to get your arms around, and I was hoping that this would help. The table at the top is representational of what it is right now, in that the area in red would be a major amendment, the area in green would be minor amendments, and then the area in white would be no amendments. But what we found is that in interpreting it based on the size of the PAD and then the percentages, that we would catch some amendments that were less than 20 acres down in this area, which would be this area of the upper chart, would be considered minor amendments when they should actually probably be no amendments. And then likewise, also in this area of the chart, we created some that would be minor amendments that should have been no amendment. So what in effect we've done is if we make it based on the amount of area that's going to be changed, then you can see the differences in the two, that some of the major amendments, what would be considered a major amendment less than 160 acres right now would be minor, and that would be the principal change in terms of net effect. We hope that by making this change, we make it easier to administer, and we don't catch no amendments in a kind of a catch-22 where they're considered to be a minor, even a minor amendment. Before I close, though, I want to point out one thing, is that it's only the no amendments that don't go through any particular process. The minor amendments still go through a review process by the Planning and Zoning Commission. It comes to the City Council. The primary difference is that they can come at any time as opposed to coming just once a year. And so by doing this, I think we can better accommodate some of the requests that come in that when we look at them, we go, boy, this is a major amendment, but it really should be a minor. And as an example tonight, the Goodyear 142 would be below 160 acres. That would have fallen in a category of a minor amendment as opposed to a major amendment. The rest of them that are on your agenda tonight would still be major amendments, even under this revised scheme. During the public hearings, we have had no comments either way on this request. Actually, we did get one letter from Newland supporting it, but other than that, we have no negative comments on the proposed change. So with that, I'll close my remarks and stand for any questions council may have.
Okay, thank you. Are there any comments from the public? Any comments from the public? Okay, I'll close the public hearing, and I'll ask the clerk to read the resolution by title only.
Adopt Resolution 08-1274, approving a major amendment to the Goodyear General Plan 2003-2013 to amend the text of the general plan to clarify the criteria and process used to determine if a proposed change in land use is a major amendment or minor amendment to the general plan by deleting Section 2.3.6 of Chapter 2, Land Use Element, and replacing it with a new Section 2.3.6 as described herein, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, thank you. Could I have a motion to approve the resolution?
Mr. Mayor, I move we adopt resolution number 08-1274 as read by the city clerk.
Second.
Motion from from Councilmember Cavalier and a second from Vice Mayor Antoniak. It's open for discussion. Just a quickie, does this have to go through the Attorney General when we change the criteria?
I don't believe it does. We send them all the general plan amendments at the end of the year anyway. We send them notice of the actions within 3 days after they're taken.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no discussion, I'll ask for a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Lord?
Aye.
Councilmember Holland?
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Antoniak?
Aye.
Councilmember Sousa?
Aye.
Councilmember Cavalier?
Aye.
Mayor Kavanaugh?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Okay, thank you. Next item is public hearing to consider adoption of a resolution for a major amendment to the Goodyear General Plan for El Rio Crossing. Open the public hearing. Katie?
Thank you, Mayor Kavanaugh, members of the council. This general amendment is located northwest of MC 85, south of Southern Avenue, and west of Perryville Road. This east of Perryville Road, apologize. This general plan amendment proposes changing 246 acres from rural residential land and 20 acres of commercial land to a mix of regional commercial, light industrial, high-density residential, and community commercial. Several changes have taken place in the surrounding area, which has prompted these proposed changes and staff's recommendation of approval. The town of Buckeye recently ratified a new general plan, and the area in this blue used to be designated as a rural residential, but they've changed that to business park. Also in the Buckeye general plan, Perryville Road is shown as a parkway, an Arizona parkway, in accordance with the Hacienda Transportation Framework Study. And also, the routing of 801 appears to be headed just north of this property, and the proposed State Route 303 loop is possibly going to be located in this area. There hasn't been a study corridor even set for the 303 yet, so it might change, but it could be in this area. Because of the changes to the town of Buckeye plan and the major roadways in the area, the staff does recommend approval of the changes from a rural residential to industrial and commercial areas. There were no comments received at any of the public hearings on this proposed general plan amendment. Commission recommended approval of the major GPA by unanimous vote at the October 15, 2008 meeting. And staff recommends approval of the general plan. I can answer any questions you might have, and the applicant is also available for comment and question.
Okay. Are there any comments from the public, including the applicant? Okay. I'll close the public hearing and ask the clerk to read the resolution by title only, please.
Adopt Resolution 08-1275, approving a major amendment to the Goodyear General Plan 2003-2013 to amend the planned land uses for El Rio Crossing containing 246 acres generally located south of Southern Avenue, east of Perryville Road, and northwest of MC 85 from the rural residential and community commercial land use designations to the high-density residential, community commercial, regional commercial, light industrial, and right-of-way for the proposed Loop 303 as shown on Exhibit L of the document entitled El Rio Crossing, a major general plan amendment dated September 9, 2008, and providing for an effective date.
Could I have a motion?
I move that we adopt Resolution 08-1275 as read by the clerk.
Second.
Motion from Councilmember Holland, a second from Vice Mayor Antoniak. It's open for discussion.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Sousa.
Yes. I have a question here. My concern is that in the future, are we looking forward to a bridge crossing at the southwest corner, rather, of this property?
There will certainly be a crossing of the river. Is that the question?
That's the question.
Thank you, Councilmember Sousa. Since the alignment for the Loop 303 hasn't been chosen yet, we're not exactly sure where that crossing would be. If the Loop 303 does go to the south, there would be a crossing over the Gila, but it hasn't been funded yet and it hasn't been cited yet, so we don't know where that could be or when it could occur.
You say you don't know when it might occur.
That's correct. Does not know when.
Correct.
Very good. Thank you.
Just to clarify that part of 303 is not in Prop 400, so it is not funded,
Correct.
which is what you said. Okay, further discussion. Yes, Councilmember Cavalier.
Yes, question on, again, on this. The commercial area appears to be in the flood zone area. Is that true? That all looks like flood zone. It's down on the river, and I know that for anyone to build down there would have to get flood insurance, I'm certain.
Mayor Kavanaugh, Councilman Cavalier, it currently is within a floodplain area, but this is an area that's been identified as part of the El Rio project for installation of bank protection to cover what was called the Buckeye Breakout area. And so the Flood Control District is currently pursuing a project to develop that and provide bank protection in this area.
So they've put a lot of riprap in there too.
They'll probably end up putting a lot more.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Councilmember Osborne.
No, I'm sorry, Dick was saying Mr. Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember Sousa.
Yes. When do they anticipate the development of this property?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Vanessa Hickman with Withy Morris, 2525 East Arizona Biltmore Circle. Councilmember Sousa, to respond to your question, at this point we're just in the general plan amendment stages, taking the opportunity with the slowing in the market right now to really take a good look at planning for the future. We don't have any plans to move forward with the zoning application in the near future. At this point, we're just setting forth the policy document and changing the color on the map in accordance with the working with ADOT with the 303 and the 801 alignments. So not any time in the near future.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, further comment? Okay, could I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Holland?
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Antoniak?
Aye.
Councilmember Sousa?
Aye.
Councilmember Cavalier?
Aye.
Councilmember Lord?
Aye.
Mayor Kavanaugh?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Next item is a public hearing to consider a major general plan amendment for North City Commerce Park.
Mr. Mayor, just a point for Farhad. Mr. Sousa's not going to know probably what you gave us unless you've already told him, so.
I beg your pardon?
I will explain it to
Yeah.
my recommendation.
We're looking at revision paperwork, and Farhad's going to explain that, Dick. That's the point I was making.
Mayor Kavanaugh,
Yes.
I will have to recuse myself on this item.
Okay. All right. For the record, Councilmember Cavalier is recusing himself. I assume it's potential conflict, is that it?
Yes.
Yep, okay. That's good.
My
Yeah,
wife was
I just,
specific.
okay. Potential conflict. Okay. Are you going to cover the explanation of the postponement opportunity and that sort of thing?
Right, I will.
Okay.
My recommendation.
And you'll need to speak into the mic for Councilmember Sousa.
Okay. All right.
Okay, I'm opening the public hearing. Farhad.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor, councilors. What you have before you is another general plan amendment, a major one, for a 254-acre property in the extreme northern part of the city. And what you're looking at is, right here on Elmo, is actually Figure 2 in the applicant's packet that's been provided with the COAC. And real quickly, I'll give you some background information. What you're looking at is Citrus Road and Camelback Road. And the 254-acre property is generally at the southeast corner. There's a 13-acre parcel that's actually not a part of this general plan amendment request. As you can see here, a lot of the proposed developments and uses have already been labeled. Real quickly, I want to be a little bit more specific and let you know that directly to the east, and this is my artificial boundary here, but Camelback 303 Industrial Park is located to the north of my pen, and then 10303 Industrial Park to the south of that. And of course, there's the Sedea development that's currently been installed directly to the west. The general plan amendment request is pretty straightforward. It's currently designated for rural residential, which allows a density of 0 to 2, 0 to 2 dwelling units to the acre. And the applicant in this case is requesting an amendment from that designation to a light industrial designation. During the first, just to give you a little bit of background about the citizen review process, back during the first Planning and Zoning Commission meeting in September, we did have actually two folks come in and express opposition to this general plan amendment request. And they were the owners of this 13-acre parcel that I just spoke to you about. They cited that they had purchased this property actually back in the 90s with the assumption that this property were to remain residential, and they would basically provide sometime in the future a supporting commercial use. Now, keep in mind that this particular 13-acre property is currently zoned for agriculture, and it's also designated for rural residential. So with that, again, straightforward general plan redesignation from rural residential to light industrial. Before I explain the recommendation, I wanted to give you kind of a hypothetical scenario and lead into the staff's recommendation. If council was inclined to approve this general plan amendment request as requested, just a straightforward rural residential to light industrial designation, the underlying zoning, or the zoning, will remain a final PAD. And as you know, this is the former property of the former site for the Talaverde Estates residential development by Beazer Homes. Plans for that development have stalled. Therefore, Civic has come in before you with this general plan amendment request. Now, if council were to approve that general plan amendment request, the underlying zoning will still remain a PAD residential. So if it were approved, it could still be developed as residential. So leading into my recommendation, in order to avoid having to come before you again to redesignate that back to residential, if it were in fact to be developed as such, we want to postpone a recommendation to approve this particular general plan amendment request until the applicant can come before you and concurrently present you with at least a preliminary PAD plan for this site. And with that, I'll close my comments and open it up to any questions.
Does the applicant agree?
The applicant, yes, we've been in constant communication with the applicant, and they are in agreement. Yeah, incidentally, I handed out some revised recommendation language to you, which is more date specific. The applicant would have until the August 24th City Council meeting to come in before you with a preliminary PAD request, or they can come in sooner, whichever occurs first. So we have set a deadline.
Okay, thank you. Are there any comments from the public, including the applicant? Any comments? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, and I would I'm going to call for a motion to, and its writing here is specific, and I just received it before this meeting, postpone. You'll be asked to make a motion to postpone adoption of a resolution until August 24, 2009, or until it can be considered concurrently with an application to rezone the property to an appropriate zoning district, whichever occurs first. Could I have a motion for that?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we postpone the adoption of a resolution until August 24th, 2009, or until it can be considered concurrently with an application to rezone the property to an appropriate zoning district, whichever occurs first.
Second.
I have a motion from Vice Mayor Antonek and a second from Councilmember Holland. Discussion?
Just to clarify, does this need a supermajority vote? Okay, I just want to make sure.
I have a discussion, but it's kind of our discussion in a sense, but it's for staff and the city manager. You know, when we get the functional impacts that come on these coax, when you read the fire and police impact, we really never get an idea what the police impact is. And I really think we need to start doing that. And I would like to see, it would be helpful to know how many additional patrols have to be used in these areas. What's that translate to? Does it translate to a police vehicle? Does it translate to hiring another police officer? So whenever we go through these, we have all the information on fire. And traditionally, we know generally what's going to cost us. But on the police, we don't. So we keep opening these areas and extending, and we can't cover them, the police department. So I would really appreciate that to be covered.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Souza?
Yeah, I concur with what Councilwoman said. I go back several years ago when the former city manager worked out a contract with development and paying for the cost of increased protection, both in the police and the fire area. And I think maybe we ought to take a look at that again and see how that was done, and maybe that solves our problem in the future. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, the city manager has taken your comment and for action.
Thank you.
Later report to council, both comments. Okay, further discussion?
Just a comment. You talked about the 13 acres up in the left-hand corner, and you had one person that stepped forward, the owner of the property, that was concerned about it and how the rezoning was going to affect them personally. What comments were made during that meeting to the owner of the property as to how things were going to change, or were you able to give them any feeling for how they should respond, or do we just kind of, you had to have said something back to them since you got a comment?
Well, Mayor, Councilor, we certainly took their comments into consideration. However, short of making a recommendation, we did give them kind of an idea of the context of the property, given the industrial development that's going on directly to the east. But staff believes, and actually the owner of that 13-acre parcel was here at the Planning and Commission meeting to hear us, that we believe, given the context of the area and the industrial development that's going to be going on to the east eventually, that it is an appropriate land use. However, we would like to see more of a vision for the property. To that, we haven't heard any responses from the owners of that 13-acre property since.
Okay.
So
That's really what I was
Right.
asking, if there have been any other comments made to them. All right, thank you.
Okay. Okay, I have a motion and a second. It says here, do a roll call vote. Do I need a roll call vote?
No.
No. Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, 6-0. And that is for postponement to August 24th. And Councilmember Cavalier. Okay, Councilmember Cavalier has returned to the dais. Next item on the agenda is the public hearing to consider adoption of a resolution for a major general plan amendment for the southwest Goodyear area. Open the public hearing, and I'll ask Farhad, you got it again.
yes. Thanks again, Mayor, council members. What I'm showing you right now before you on Elmo is Exhibit B of not the COAC, but the report that staff prepared tonight. And what you're looking at is Exhibit B. This is the existing land use for this property, which I will orient you with. What you're looking at is a 3,580 acre area that is not within the city's corporate limits, nor is it within the municipal planning area. In fact, the city limits are shown by this, basically this bold line here. Actually kind of faint over here on Elmo, but it roughly follows this delineation. This is the 203rd Avenue alignment directly to the west, Patterson Road alignment to the south, the Sandia Road, or I believe this is a 187th Avenue alignment directly to the east, Riggs Road, and then the northern boundary is about a half a mile south of the Ocotillo Road alignment. So again, this is not within the city, nor is it within the municipal planning area. So staff has initiated this general plan amendment request to actually bring it into the city's municipal planning area, primarily because looking at other documents, and particularly Maricopa County's general plan, we find that this area is not planned for. There's no specific plan for this particular area, and there's about 2,010 acres of BLM property currently directly west of where I position my pen that is currently going under a resource conservation study, and they will be ready to cede that property following that study, probably through an auction of some sort. And of course, you have the Sonoran Desert National Monument directly to the south over here, and we believe, perhaps, as you'll see in our proposed land use plan, that it might be appropriate to kind of expand the preserved open space nearby the Sonoran Desert National Monument. So I'm going to switch over quickly to Exhibit D, which is the proposed land use map. And you can see here staff has recommended that this remain as open space. This would be staff's vision of this particular area, even though it's not within the city. But if it were to be annexed, this is how we would staff would recommend that it be developed. This property up here, the 320-acre property, is adjacent to McRae property, which the applicant came before you a couple of years ago, and thus the majority of that property was redesignated for low-density residential. Therefore, staff is recommending, because this 320-acre property is adjacent to that in order to be consistent, it's fair to redesignate that as low-density residential. The private property here to the east, staff is recommending that be maintained as it's currently being used for, which is rural residential at 0 to 2 dwellings to the acre. One thing to note is staff is also recommending that this particular property, which is actually within the boundaries of the Sonoran Desert National Monument, the northernmost boundary being this here, Kamatki Road, that is actually privately owned. However, like I said, it's within the Sonoran Desert boundaries. Staff generally does not like to get into the practice of designating private property as open space if the city is not ready to purchase the property. So we're not ready to purchase the property, so we are asking kind of as a corrective measure that this be redesignated back to rural residential. I do want to acknowledge, this was actually following the citizen review meeting, and it was before the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. The owner of this particular series of parcels here, this is actually by one owner. This gentleman owns a total of 160 acres within this area, just north of the Hunt Highway alignment and east of the 187th Avenue alignment, and basically asked if we would consider redesignating his property for low-density residential at 140 acres and 20 acres for community commercial. To which we responded by stating that there's currently no access to this particular property here. We did not say that necessarily this is an inappropriate proposal, an inappropriate land use, but given that there's no access, there's no utilities to this property, and although this seems highly speculative at this point, and so staff did not feel it appropriate as part of this application to come before you and redesignate that, because the staff believes the general plan is not it's a policy document. It's not used for speculative purposes. So we did invite the applicant to speak with staff at a future date and perhaps come before you and have you consider a general plan amendment sometime in the future. But for the time being, staff is recommending approval of the general plan amendment that staff initiated as proposed. And with that, I'll close my comments and open it up to any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you. Are there comments from the public? Opportunity for the public to comment. Okay, I'll close the public hearing, and I'll ask the clerk to read the resolution, please.
Adopt Resolution 08-1276, approving a major amendment to the Goodyear General Plan 2003-2013 to officially add 3,580 acres referred to as Southwest Goodyear to the city's municipal planning area, generally located between a point a half mile north of Chandler Heights Road and Patterson Road, and between 187th Avenue and 203rd Avenue, and formally establish the planned land uses on this acreage as open space, rural residential, and low-density residential, as shown on Exhibit D of the document entitled Southwest Goodyear General Plan Amendment, dated September 9, 2008, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the resolution?
Move we adopt Resolution 08-1276 as read by the city clerk.
Second.
A motion from Councilmember Lord and a second from Councilmember Osborne. It's open for discussion.
I've asked my questions. I'm good.
Okay. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Osborne.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Antoniak.
Aye.
Councilmember Sousa.
Aye.
Councilmember Cavalier.
Aye.
Councilmember Lord.
Aye.
Councilmember Holland.
Aye.
Mayor Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Okay, thank you. We'll now move to consider a major amendment to the Goodyear General Plan for 203rd and Pecos Road area. And I'll open the public hearing. David?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This general plan amendment request was originally submitted to the City of Goodyear in 2006, but then continued indefinitely by the Planning and Zoning Commission due to objections raised by the town of Buckeye.
I'm sure Councilmember Sousa can't hear you. I'm sorry.
I can.
Okay.
Okay.
The town of Buckeye objected to this general plan amendment because the proposal called for expanding the City of Goodyear's municipal planning area into their established municipal planning area, and because the town of Buckeye was actively pursuing an annexation of a portion of the area. Over the past several months, staff has worked with the town of Buckeye on an intergovernmental agreement which addresses these issues. On December 16, 2008, the town of Buckeye will vote to adopt or reject the IGA. The full details of this general plan amendment request are identified in the staff report. In summary, the GPA would expand the city's municipal planning area by approximately 2,500 acres, south and west of Pecos Road and 203rd Avenue, and will also designate 2,090 acres with a rural residential classification, 316 acres with a low-density residential designation, 75 acres with a low-medium-density residential designation, 58 acres with a medium-density residential designation, and 15 acres with a community commercial land use designation. As noted in the staff report, several citizens attended the citizen review and public hearings that were held 2 years ago. Some residents objected to having their property included in the city's municipal planning area, while others supported the request. Prior to the last public hearing, staff notified all property owners within the subject area of the GPA request, and of course staff also notified residents of this public hearing as well. And as a result of that notification, staff received phone calls from 2 individuals who were in support of this proposal. Staff has not received any objections from the latest notifications. On October 15th, 2008, the Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the request. Planning staff recommends that the council postpone adoption of this resolution until the January 12th, 2008 City Council meeting in order to give the town of Buckeye adequate time to vote on this IGA. This concludes my presentation. Staff and the applicant are available for your questions.
Okay. So your recommendation is postpone adoption?
Postpone adoption of the resolution until January 12th.
Okay. Comments from the public? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and I'll ask for a motion to postpone adoption of the resolution until January 12th.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Lord and a second from Councilmember Cavalier. Any questions or comments?
What was the date
Mr. Mayor?
January 12th.
This December?
December 8th.
2009, okay, so it's changed from what we see here, all right.
Yeah, our packets.
Well, let's confirm that then. I have January 12th. Is that correct? Or is it
We
January 12th, 2009?
January 12th? Okay.
Okay.
And Mr. Mayor, I feel like a little explanation. We've been trying to get on the agenda with the town of Buckeye for a couple months, and it was scheduled. We had anticipated it being scheduled in October. It didn't happen. It's actually on the agenda tomorrow night, but it's going to be postponed, I understand. And it probably won't go back in front of the Buckeye Town Council till December 16th. That'll be after your last meeting in December. So now we're asking you to take it into January. We're optimistic that we still will have an IGA to present to you at the same time when this is reconsidered, but I wanted you to know why the postponement was being recommended. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Souza,
Yeah,
any comments?
none at all. I just wanted to make that correction from 08 to 09.
Oh, okay. Comments, questions?
No, just concern is Buckeye and, I mean, what's Buckeye's favor on, what's their pleasure on this? I mean, are they feel that we are forcing them into releasing this so we can put it in our planned area?
Mayor Kavanaugh, Councilmember Cavalier, I think initially when it was proposed, there was an annexation that was being actively pursued by Buckeye, and in fact, they did annex this 160 acres right here. They annexed this along with a whole bunch of other BLM property to the west, all the way over to State Road 85. But now that that's accomplished, I think that they recognize that this area may be better suited to be served from the Goodyear side of that BLM property rather than from the Buckeye side. So although we haven't gotten through the town council yet, so I don't want to speak prematurely, but we're optimistic that, at least from a staff-to-staff perspective, we're in agreement that it would be better to be in Goodyear than Buckeye, and we hope that the town council and our council both agree to that as well.
Very good, thank you.
Okay. Motion is to postpone. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, 7-0. That's the last of our general plan amendments. And the next two items are related to Fry's Marketplace and will be presented together. Following the presentation, council will take action on the special use permit and then the site plan approval. Okay. David, you're up.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. The Saraville Marketplace property is generally located at the northwest corner of Saraville Avenue and Yuma Road. The applicant is requesting special use zoning to construct a 109,176 square foot Fry's large retail user with a drive-through pharmacy and limited display of outdoor merchandise within a larger commercial center known as Saraville Marketplace. The applicant is also requesting approval of a site plan for the Fry's Marketplace large retail user. This is the master site plan and landscape plan for Saraville Marketplace, which shows the location of the Fry's Marketplace parcel in context with the rest of the commercial center. On this exhibit, the Fry's Marketplace parcel is highlighted in red, and the proposed pharmacy drive-through is located along the east side of the building. A limited area for outdoor display of merchandise is located along the Fry's storefront. Located southeast of the Fry's Marketplace is a fueling station, which is the subject of a use permit request that will be presented separately. These are the building elevations for the Fry's Marketplace large retail user. These elevations will incorporate simulated wood, masonry block, stone, slate tile, and metal features. All of the proposed building materials and colors were chosen from the Saraville Marketplace design guidelines and colors and materials color palette. The citizen review meeting was conducted on October 1st, 2008. Approximately 5 residents attended this meeting, and no objections were raised pertaining to this project. On October 29, 2008, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of this request by a vote of 5-0. This concludes my presentation. The applicant and staff are available for your questions.
Is this special use because of the size? Is that?
Mr. Mayor, that's correct. It's special use because the square footage of the building exceeds 100,000 square feet.
Okay. All right, we've had the presentation. Comments from the public?
Mayor, I do have one speaker
Okay.
card. Dennis Dunran? Duncan, sorry.
Mayor Kavanaugh, Council, Dennis Duncan, 16470 West Papago, Goodyear. I'm here representing the Vanderbilt Farms Homeowners Association. Mr. Shamer has contacted us at the beginning of this project, has attended a meeting and gave a presentation to the Homeowners Association. We've put several updates in our newsletter, and as this date, we have no negative comments about the project. Thank you.
Well, thank you for reporting that. Further comments from the public? Comments from the applicant?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Ed Bull, 702 East Osborne. We jump into the punchline. Would request your council's approval in accordance with the Planning Commission's unanimous and the staff's recommendations for approval on these 2 items. We can go into as much detail as you'd like, but your council really heard the beginnings of this case back earlier this year when we were here on the zoning aspect of it. Certainly there's been a lot of work between the Schemer family and Fry's with staff and the neighbors to work through a variety of issues. And we have what we believe is a very high-quality plan subject to a number of exhibits and numerous stipulations which will assure quality. So I'm happy to skip a presentation or get into a presentation depending upon whether there's issues or concerns. But if you're comfortable with the recommendations, so are we, and I defer to you as to whether you'd like a more detailed presentation from me at this time.
Okay. Let's see how the discussion goes, and we'll go from there.
Okay?
Okay. Further comments from the public? Seeing none, I'll call for motion to approve the special use permit.
Mr. Mayor. Is there any chance to take in I and J together? Can we do them at the same time or no? Do we have to do them separate?
I have them separate on my sheet.
I know. I just figured I'd ask. Separate? Okay, then I'll make a motion for, pardon me, it wasn't I and J, it was H and I. I'll make a motion that we approve special use zoning to allow Fry's Marketplace large retail user with a drive-through pharmacy and Cerebral Marketplace Commercial Center.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion, Vice Mayor Antoniak, and a second, Councilmember Cavalier. Open for discussion.
Mr. Mayor?
I have a couple questions.
Well, let me, Councilmember Souza?
Yes. Mr. Mayor, I've reviewed these items that we had for review over the weekend, and the development, in my estimation, is second to none. The developer has done an excellent job providing a facility that is going to serve this area of the city that is really direly needed. And those are my comments relative to it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Councilmember Osborne.
Just a couple of questions. I do agree with Mr. Sousa that the design of the buildings, everything really goes nicely with the just residential feel and atmosphere to it. A couple of questions, though, kind of for staff. First of all, with the exception of the stipulation in the fueling station, stipulation number 4 states that outdoor lighting shall comply with Article 10 of the city's ordinance. But in the other two, the other two that are here, there's nothing about our lighting ordinance in either one of the packages here. And so I was concerned that maybe that just for safekeeping, it should be in there about the lighting ordinance. We've got residential right across the street, so I would like that to be in there, unless that was in the previous discussion. But I'm not seeing it in these two.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Osborne, there were a couple outstanding issues with the lighting plans as they pertain to where the fueling station was located. And so that's why we added that stipulation to the use permit for the fueling station. The lighting plans for the rest of the commercial center met all the Article 10 requirements.
They did.
But we would welcome, if you wish to add that stipulation, we would not have a problem with that.
Okay. Well,
Security.
that was it, you know, it's security in there. We did pass that lighting ordinance a year and a half ago, and I just think that it's boilerplate, you know. So I would appreciate that added. The other question is the median that is on Yuma, that is between the residence and the shopping center itself. It says that it's a raised median. Is it just solid concrete? Is there going to be landscaping? Who's in charge of that?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Osborne, the median will consist of landscaping when it is built.
Okay.
It will be raised as well.
Good. I was just nice buffer, more landscaping. Okay. Lastly, my last question had to do with the fueling station. I don't know if we're allowed to dictate anything about this or not, but I'm certainly hoping that there will be no alcohol sold in that kiosk. That is my question or concern. Take it whichever way. Don't know who can answer that. Anybody? Anybody can answer it?
There is none sold.
There's none sold at the kiosk. Okay. That was it.
Who made the motion?
I did.
I just want to make a comment.
I made the motion.
Okay. Will you agree to add the provision about lighting ordinance?
Was that? Yeah, I have no problem with that.
Yeah, I think it is.
Clarify again for me. You were talking about stipulating to the lighting
Stipulating
ordinance?
the lighting ordinance that we have in place.
So we'd be adding a 13th stipulation reflecting the
Yes.
adherence to the lighting ordinance? I don't see a problem with that. I would assume they'd have to adhere to it, but I don't have a problem with that.
It's in our ordinance.
Yeah, I don't know who seconded my motion, but I'd be happy to have the motion amended to reflect the lighting ordinance. The applicant may have something to say about that.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, we're fine with that. I think the wording for it's really stipulation 4 of the next item on,
Yeah, it is.
or
on
the
the
third
next.
item on the agenda, which has to do with the fueling, which
It's
is
in the next one.
wording that just says basically comply with your lighting ordinance, and we're fine with that.
On the next item that
On
we're
the next
voting on.
item.
Yeah.
So on aye.
Would you?
So does that satisfy your concern, or you want to see it in this one
I just,
too?
there's boilerplate stipulations we put in everything.
Right.
And I think the lighting
That's
ordinance
fine.
should
I agree.
be,
I agree with
I
it.
just think it should be there.
It just
I don't know who
means somebody
seconded
could come back and say it
I
wasn't
don't
in
know.
there.
Who seconded mine?
I did.
Okay.
So I've got no problem.
No, I have no problem.
Okay, so we'll add a stipulation to my motion, right?
Right. To add the zoning ordinance.
The lighting ordinance.
Lighting ordinance.
Yeah, I don't know.
And
Yeah.
second? Okay, so we have the original motion, plus we've added a stipulation to include the lighting ordinance. Okay. Councilmember Lord.
I just want to add to the comments made tonight. This design is great. It really is. It's very strong neighborhood feel, and it's got the amenities on the outside. It really is a fine example. I'm looking forward to seeing the final product. And thank you.
Okay. I have a motion on the floor to approve the special use with the addition of a lighting ordinance as a stipulation. All those in favor of that motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it 7-0. We'll move to the site plan. Can I have a motion to approve the site plan?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the site plan for Fry's Marketplace, large retail user with a drive-through pharmacy to be developed in Sayreville Marketplace Commercial Center.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion from Vice Mayor Antoniak and a second from Councilmember Holland this time. How about that?
Thank you.
And so, is there discussion on it?
I just echo Councilmember Lord's comments from the last one. It's nice to see it responsive to the neighbors to the south. It very much fits into the community. So it looks like it's going to be a great project.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, 7-0. We'll now consider approving a request for a use permit to allow a fueling station as a convenience use, a 1.76 acre parcel in Sayreville Marketplace. David?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the subject 1.76-acre property is generally located on the 300 feet north of Yuma Road on the west side of Saraville Avenue. This vicinity aerial map shows the location of the fueling station parcel in relation to the rest of Saraville Marketplace and the surrounding properties. The applicant is requesting approval of a use permit to allow a fueling station as a convenience use. The fueling station will include 176 square foot sales kiosk and 9 fuel pumps. This is the Saraville Marketplace Master Site Plan, which identifies the location of the fueling station. That's this area right here. And these are the elevations of the fueling station sales kiosk, as well as the canopies. The citizen review meeting was held on October 1st, 2008 for this proposal. 5 residents attended this meeting and no objections were raised pertaining to this project. On October 29th, 2008, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of this request by a vote of 5-0. This concludes my presentation. The applicant and staff are available for questions.
Okay. Any comments from the applicant?
Thank you, Mayor. Still Ed Bull, still 702 East Osborne. Once again, we appreciate the staff and Planning Commission recommendations and accept the stipulations. We'd request your council's approval accordingly. In response to a prior question, I believe your record indicates that Dennis Barr from Fry's indicated that there are no alcohol sales from the kiosk. There's no alcohol in the kiosk. In fact, the public doesn't go in the kiosk. It's a walk-up window kind of environment. So once again, if you need a presentation, we'll be happy to provide it. We hope that the exhibits and recommendations speak better than I do, and if you're happy with them, so are we.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just say one more
Yes.
thing? I'm going to add back again about the police response, because that's another busy commercial area, which is going to take a lot of extra patrolling. So again, we need to be thinking, all right, do we have the police? Do we have the time? What are we going to do? Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, comments from the public? Comments from the public? Seeing none, could I have a motion to approve the site plan?
Use permit.
No, site plan. No, use permit.
Use
I did the
permit.
site plan.
Yeah.
Got it.
Use
Okay.
permit.
Mr. Mayor.
I'm on the 1.76 acre parcel for the fueling station. Okay, use permit.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve a use permit to allow a fueling station as a convenience use at Saraville Marketplace Commercial Center.
Second.
Motion from Vice Mayor Antoniak and a second from Councilmember Cavalier. It's open for discussion.
I'd like to say that the material that this client has brought to us is outstanding. I've never seen such detail in any development ever brought before us in as much detail as this is in it. I very much appreciated that it puts us in a position of having a better understanding and having to waste time having to ask questions and get more detail. So I'll not waste any more time by saying thank you, but just thanks so much for being so detailed.
Thank you, and the credit goes to everybody on the team except for me.
Well, nice job.
Yeah, not too often do we hear applauded from such a large number of council members, so congratulations. Also, Ed, you. So.
I just try to stay out of their way.
Okay.
Yeah, we know that.
All in favor of the motion to approve the use permit, signify by stating aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, 7-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll now consider approving a use permit for 2 freeway pylon signs within the airport gateway. Karen? No, that's not Karen.
That's Fred.
I'm sorry.
You're not
Harvey
doing
told me he was going to. I forgot. Harvey, you're up.
Mayor, members of the council, Karen went home ill this afternoon, so I'm pinch hitting for her. This property is known as Airport Gateway at Goodyear. It is a 222-acre mixed-use development bordered by Bullard on the east, Van Buren on the south, and I-10 on the north. The property, the Cancer Treatment Centers of America, this is their parcel they're developing right now. It's 25 acres. The remainder of the property is 197 acres. The council approved a preliminary PAD on all of the property except the hospital parcel, which received a final PAD on October the 9th of last year. The city staff has received a use permit application for request for 3 pylon signs for this project. The pylon signs are proposed at 80 feet high. There's one pylon sign that would be designated just for the Cancer Treatment Centers of America. I'll refer to it as CTCA from now on. So, and then 2 additional pylon signs for the remainder of the property, which would be primarily retail office development. The Planning Commission considered this request at their October 29th meeting and recommended approval. The applicant, in your COAC or your staff report, the applicant objected to stipulation number 2. The commission recommended approval of this on a 4-to-1 vote. The staff had recommended that the applicant receive approval of 1 pylon sign for the balance of the property since it was zoned preliminary PAD. We did not have any, did not have final zoning, did not have any site plans, and had no users identified. So we felt that 1 pylon sign at this time made sense. And then, of course, the 1 pylon sign for the Cancer Treatment Center. And also, and at the same time, recommended that the applicant could come back for a 3rd pylon sign based on performance standard. And if the council recalls this, we did this, or the council imposed a similar provision with the West Core project, their regional mall. They had asked for 3 pylon signs. Council granted them a right for 2, with the provision they could come back for a 3rd if they garnered 10 high-end retail stores, I believe was the performance-based criteria we used in that case. In this particular case, staff was recommending that the applicant could come back to council with an amendment to their use permit if they attracted a major employer defined as 400-plus employer with at least 50% of the positions paying at or above the median income of Goodyear at the time, a national hotel chain, or a large retail user, which be defined as 30 million taxable retail sales annually. And when those 3 criteria are met, in addition, the 1 pylon sign would have to have at least 100% of the panels taken. Since the Planning Commission meeting, the applicant has approached staff and indicated this is fairly onerous, and in today's market, to give them more ability to market the property to a large retail user or to a national hotel chain or to a large employer, they needed some more certainty in regards to the 3rd pylon sign. So staff has negotiated a different stipulation with essentially the same criteria, but making it more administrative rather than having to come back to council. And I believe Joe Schmitz handed out a 2-page paper that has the modified stipulation. The meat of it is number 2. And basically, the 3 criteria would still stand that I read earlier. Also, instead of having the 1 pylon sign that is granted by right, having all 6 panels being filled, the staff is saying that at least 50% of the panels would need to be filled before the 3rd pylon sign could be approved. and that would not come back before council. It would be just granted once the performance standards are complied with by the applicant, and the applicant felt this was acceptable. And he would have 7 years upon issuance of the first certificate of occupancy to apply for the additional pylon sign. So that is the recommendation at this point in time with the staff and that the staff and the applicant has worked out with these amended stipulations 1 and 2 to the staff report. As I indicated, the signs are 80 feet high. They're approximately 1,700 feet apart. And let me show you the signs. I guess that's the next thing. Show you the signs. This is the Cancer Treatment Centers of America sign. It has a electronic display which will be advertising events for a week or more, every day or weekly. Not for advertising CTCA, but rather for advertising upcoming events. And then this is the two signs that the applicant, EJM Development, is proposing. Staff, they initially asked for a digital reader board. For the last panel, staff does not recommend that, as recommended that be just a standard panel, since we feel that pylon sign purpose is to identify location for users, not for advertising for their tenants. And these panels are each 122 square feet. The large pylon identifier is 172 square feet. As you notice, Goodyear is prominently displayed on both signs, here and here. Those are the signs. The applicant is here represented by Ed Bull, and also Fred Stiles of EJM Development is here if you have any specific questions. And I believe David Billette is here from the CTCA. That concludes my comments, Mayor.
Okay, just to sure understand, you're replacing the 9 stipulations with 2 stipulations, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
I'm sorry. No. The others, just modifying the 2 stipulations, 1 and 2.
Yeah, all of the stipulations you handed us as revised would apply. You're recommending just the change in 1 and 2, but 3 through 9 would remain the same.
Correct.
Yeah.
Sorry, I misunderstood you.
Okay, and then make sure I understand, 1 and 2 are changed.
The balance
are reflected on the modified stipulation, and the other 7 remain as is. Okay. Opportunity for the applicant.
Thank you, Mayor. Ed Bull, 702 East Osborne. I'm here with Fred Stiles, and between the two of us, I hope we'll be able to answer any questions that you may have this evening. Cutting to the chase, we do request approval in accordance with staff's recommendation as was reviewed by Harvey tonight, which includes, as you've just discussed with Harvey, modified stipulations 1 and 2, and then stipulations 3 through 9 as exactly was as previously recommended by staff and the commission. That includes, as a part of that, stipulation 8, which precludes the reader board from occurring on the airport gateway sign. The reader board could occur on the Cancer Treatment Centers of America sign. The overall site is, as you know, including the Cancer Treatment Center portion of it, it's about 222 acres. From our perspective, what we're looking at here really is a question about whether or not recognizing we start with 222 acres, and if you take about 25 acres out for the Cancer Treatment Center, which wants to have its own pylon sign, the question then is whether or not the remaining about 197 acres with about 3,400 feet of lineal frontage along I-10 is appropriate for 2 high-quality pylon signs in order to help with the identification and marketing of that 197 acres. As we believe the exhibits depict, and as Harvey touched on, We believe these are high-quality signs. Certainly Goodyear is prominently displayed at the top of the signs, as we've been encouraged to do in the past, and were encouraged prior to this evening as well. It is something where, to the best of our knowledge, we do not have any neighborhood opposition to the proposed signs. And it's a scenario where in this marketplace that's challenging for cities and challenging for everyone, part of what Fred justifiably would like to have at his disposal would be the ability to tell the types of tenants that are identified in Stipulation 2 that if they agree to come to these 197 acres, that they have an opportunity to have their name on this sign. Fred believes, and I agree with him, that's very different than telling them that, well, I think through an amended application I may be able to get that sign approved. He would like, I believe justifiably, to be able to say this is a good-looking sign, properly located. If you meet the criteria, then you will be able to have your name on that sign. Again, we can go into as much detail on the sign or other aspects or other stipulations as you'd like, but the discussions that have taken place over the course of the last week or two between Fred and staff, with a little bit of involvement from me, has come up with the collection of stipulations that are here that includes what we believe is a good compromise and a good solution that achieves what we hope the city is looking to achieve as far as quality and spacing and so on signs, and also provides Fred and his company with the economic development tools that he needs and perhaps your economic development department needs in order to help make this I-10 site be the type of development that the city and Fred and his company would like it to be. If you have questions, or Fred, if there's things that you want to add, we will be happy to go into as much detail as you want. But again, from our perspective at least, we're dealing with a sign for the Cancer Center, of course, and then the real debate has to do with whether or not the remaining 197 acres with 3,400 feet of I-10 frontage is appropriate for the two pylon signs, which looks like the one on my left.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Stiles, did you want to comment? All right.
It's beginner's luck.
Okay, Mr. Villette? Ms. Accord.
Mayor, council members, Elizabeth Acord, 15699 West Monterosa Street. Speaking on behalf of CTCA, we are in full support of the modifications to stipulations 1 and 2 as proposed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, could I have a motion to approve the use permit as evidenced on the modified stipulation?
So moved.
I'll second that.
I have a motion from Councilmember Lord and a second from Vice Mayor Antoniak. It's open for discussion.
Just that the assumption on the second is that we're talking about modified 1 and 2 as presented by staff.
Yeah, is there any question on that whatsoever?
Nope, just want to make sure. Okay.
Okay, I have a quick question. Did you have any question? Go ahead.
Something to say. Yeah, sure. I don't like pylons. I mean, I think it's evident in the past history I have. But I will say something nice. I have someone close to me. I have someone close to me that has had to leave the state for cancer treatment. They stated that where they had to go, a pylon helping them there because they're being out of state was nice. So I am giving that nicely about that. As for the other two, God, what did we do before pylons ever existed? How did anybody find where businesses were, and how did businesses make it without pylons? So, I just don't like them.
They didn't.
They made it, and how do we get now around without our GPSs? I just don't understand. So, I'm in favor of the cancer treatment center one. I'm inclined to agree with one other pylon. I do not agree with 3. I liked it better how staff originally had put it. I know that we want some great employers within our city, and I think this is certainly an incentive to the developer to go out and search for those employers and bring them. But I don't like them. And one last thing I would like to say to the council is that if they fail at getting that big employer, do we have a specified spot where we know the Cancer Treatment Center one would have to be where it is, but between the other two positions, my preference would be that would be at the latter end of Bullard rather than having them closer together, they'd be spread apart. So that is my last comment, because that's not stipulated as where that would be. So I leave that up for discussion.
Okay, before we ask for amendment to the motion, let me see how others feel about the subject.
I would hate to leave that. First of all, I'm a salesperson, so I
Mine.
need every tool I have to make a sale. And so I'm, before when Westcor gave me 4, I said 3, you said 2, I lost, right? So I'm the sign person because I know how important that sign is for marketing. And to get the companies you want to come in, they do want to have their name out in lights. So I understand that I don't think it looks like Las Vegas, and I don't think it looks like some of the other highways. I think the sign is done in good taste, and so that's where I stand on it. I think you all knew that anyway.
Okay, further comments?
Mr.
Councilmember Holland?
Mr. Mayor.
I'll be right back to you. Councilmember Holland, then Councilmember Souza. Okay.
Well, first of all, I think these really look nice. I'm a pylon person myself because I travel so much, and I use them to get where I want to go. And my GPS, Joanne, sorry about that. But these look very, very nice, and so I think that having them appropriately spaced, and you showed us where you thought they would go on the drawing, seems to be a nice position. They're far enough apart. I thought it was a great idea. So thank you, Harvey.
Okay, further comment?
I think they're okay.
Okay, Councilmember Souza?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you know, my feelings on pylon signs.
Yes, we do.
But in this particular situation, I think it's necessary for us to have these 2 signs. But I certainly appreciate the conservativeness of staff relative to the third one. And I look forward to evaluating this in the future. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Am I to understand that you support the staff recommendation?
Yes, on the two.
Well,
He doesn't understand stipulation.
Doesn't understand.
Was he provided this?
No.
Okay.
So
Should we read this?
Read it.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Why don't you read it to him? Councilmember Souza, there's been a modification to your original paperwork. Let me ask Harvey if he'd read it to you, please.
Yep.
Modified stipulation number 1, Councilman Sousa, the use permit approval shall be for 3 freeway pylon signs, one of which shall be subject to conditions set forth in stipulation 2 below. And now I'm going to read stipulation number 2. 2 of the 3 freeway pylon signs, one for the Cancer Treatment Centers of America Hospital and one for the remainder of Airport Gateway, may be installed upon issuance of a building permit subject to stipulations 3 through 9, which are the same in your staff report.
Okay.
The 3rd freeway pylon sign, also for the remainder of Airport Gateway, may be installed upon issuance of a building permit subject to stipulations 3 through 9 when the applicant has a confirmed commitment from one of the following to locate in Airport Gateway: a major employer defined as a 400-plus person employer with at least 50% of the positions paying at or above the median income of Goodyear at the time, a national hotel chain, or a large retail user or combination of users defined by 30 million taxable retail sales annually. The applicant shall have signage commitments for at least 3 different users of the 6 spaces on the first Airport Gateway freeway pylon sign before obtaining the permit for the 3rd freeway pylon sign. The applicant has 7 years from the issuance of the first final certificate of occupancy for Airport Gateway, other than the CTCA hospital, to obtain the commitments set forth above and obtain the permit for the 3rd freeway pylon sign. That's the change in
Mr.
your
Mayor.
staff report.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I'm in accord with that.
Okay, you support the modification?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Osborne,
Yes, sir.
would you like to make a motion? I didn't hear any support for your...
Oh, well, no. What I was asking was if they were not able to get the certain criteria here to have that third sign, do we have a desire as to where the sign is placed, whether it's there dead center or if it's there towards Bullard? That was my question.
I thought your first point, though, was you wanted to go back to the original...
Oh, go back to, well, I can tell that's not going. So, no, I'm not going anywhere with
Okay,
that.
so, all right, so you will not
So
make...
then my second question,
Okay,
It's a
do
valid
we have a,
okay.
Mayor, Councilmember Osborne, the CTCA sign would go in this location. There's 1,700, there's 3,400 feet of frontage. If there's a third sign, it would go right in the middle. If there was just one other sign, I guess we would need to talk to, the general guideline in the zoning ordinance is approximately a half a mile. They're supposed to be separated. So we would probably ask that they be at least a half a mile, 2,500 feet or so apart. The closer to there are other signs. I guess
it makes logical sense, Harvey, to have them build. If the zoning ordinance says that there should be 2,500 feet apart, it would make sense that you build the one closer to Bullard first. And
that's all I wanted to clarify.
CTCA
Is
one,
that
and
that
then the
was
middle
there.
one third. What it seems to make sense to do. But this, we can stipulate that.
I don't know if we need to.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Bull.
I would hope we wouldn't need to get into a stipulation as to which location would go first, because candidly, what Fred and his company's preference would be is, as Harvey indicated, the easternmost sign is for the Cancer Treatment Center. Between the other two, with there being economic development efforts going on now and going on into the future, we would anticipate that where a user goes that satisfies the various criteria is going to trip which of these other two signs would need to go first, because we would anticipate if the type of user that you would put on a freeway pylon sign would be located to the west, we would probably want to put in the west sign first. If the type of user that would justify a freeway pylon sign would be more centralized in the development, we would anticipate we'd want to put the middle one in first. So we would hope to have that flexibility again for all of the economic development and marketing reasons that we touched on a few minutes ago.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes?
My question to Mr. Bull would be this. The Cancer Treatment Center is going to be opening at the end of this year. Wouldn't it be best to put the pylon sign in place near that facility rather than wait for the commercial properties?
Mayor, Councilmember Sousa, the pylon sign for the Cancer Center could go through the plan review and permitting processes and construction processes as soon as your council approves this use permit package. We would anticipate that the Cancer Center sign will be built very soon and will be the first of the signs to be built. And it would be built toward the easternmost edge of the 222 acres.
And are you agreeing to that?
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Osborne, are you satisfied with Mr. Bull's point? Let's let the sign follow the development, basically.
I understand his point. What I wish was that the cancer sign was off on its own for voting, and then the other two. Then I wouldn't have to be so negative.
It's just not perfect.
No, it's not. That really stinks. Oh, man. Mr. Collette. Okay.
Mayor, can I just say something? I want to thank staff and Mr. Stiles and Mr. Bull for coming to this agreement. It's really great because I anticipated some really deep discussion tonight. It's a relief. Thank you.
Okay, we have the original motion is on the table. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye, please. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
The ayes have it, 6-1.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll now move to the last item on our business agenda, and that's to consider approving the special use zoning for the Vineyard Christian Fellowship West Valley Church. And you're going to...
Yes. Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This case was continued from the November 10th City Council meeting, in which a full presentation was given. However, prior to the vote, the recommendation was to continue this case so that the city attorney's office could further research the voting requirements associated with the special use application. Staff previously thought that because this special use application received opposition from some of the adjacent property owners, that a 3/4 vote of the full council was required. However, contrary to what is noted in the staff report, we have been advised by the city attorney that a 3/4 majority vote is not required for this special use application. We apologize for the confusion. The recommendation is for approval subject to the stipulations outlined in the staff report. Staff is available to answer any questions. The applicant is also available to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, before I ask for further presentation, are there any comments from the public on this one? Any comments from the public? Okay, comments from the applicant?
Mr. Mayor, City Council members, last week there was a comment made, a question brought up, a concern about the fact that churches do like to grow, and we definitely have every intention of growing. But I'm glad to have an opportunity to answer that concern because the main complaints have been the potential parking problems, which I believe we've addressed. But for our uses, one of the best uses of any church facility isn't just to merely continue growing one service in one congregation, but actually to have multiple services, which limits your parking for any one given service. So we'll only grow so much as far as the parking use is concerned, but yet our church can still continue to grow without making further demands on the parking. The second point in growing churches is many churches have the attitude of growing this single congregation, which might begin to tax the parking needs. Our church is a church plant out of a Vineyard Church in Glendale. And our intention as far as growing churches isn't merely to grow our own church, but to actually send out church plants. So when we reach certain sizes, we have the leadership people to man new churches. We would do the same. So there's more ways than just one to continue growing a congregation that won't overtax the center.
Okay. Thank you very much. Would anyone on council wish to have Brett repeat the presentation that he gave 2 weeks ago? Or was it 1 week ago? 2 weeks ago.
Last week.
Last week.
It was last week.
Okay. Would anyone like that repeated?
No.
No.
Oh.
Well, you asked me to do it.
I'm so surprised to
You
hear
want
that,
it?
yeah.
Yes or no?
With that, Mayor, would you entertain a motion? I move that we approve the special use zoning application to allow church use in general commercial zoning district as presented by staff last week.
And second it.
I got a motion from Vice Mayor Antoniak and a second from Councilmember Holland. Okay. Discussion.
Yes?
Okay. All those in favor of the motion signify by...
Discussion.
Oh.
Sorry.
No. Sorry, I thought I'd try, Mayor.
No, I'll make this quick. In the citizen review meeting, a few business owners noted that many vehicles speed through the parking lot and pedestrians may be harmed. Can we do something about that, a speed bump? Can we take a look into that? That was a concern. Parking lot. Mr. Police Chief.
Concerned about what?
Do that property owners.
I mean, is this happening in that parking lot? I mean, if it is, we need to take some action.
We can examine it,
Okay,
and if
Appreciate
something's
it.
called for, we will take some action.
okay, that's all.
Okay.
It's okay. Thank you.
Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, 7-0.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Souza?
Yes, I'd like to be excused from any further business.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilmember Souza's excused from the meeting. We'll now move into information or any comments, current events from council members.
I'm talking tonight, all right, sorry. But
There's a surprise.
I just want to give some credit to the police department. You're going to make me feel self-conscious, and I won't say anything.
Well, that's the point.
Don't even worry about it. During the economic turndown, we sometimes have to help ourselves, and I want to give credit to the police department because the firing range was in pretty bad disarray. And so the trainees got together along with water, and who else was in there? Water and streets. Got together and they went and cleaned it up, and I guess it's pretty pristine now, and so congratulate them for taking that on. We really appreciate it. It saved the city some money.
Thank you. Comments from the city manager?
Just two follow-up items from this evening's meeting, Mr. Mayor. We will check on future COACs to make sure that we include specifics about police impacts from developments, that is included in the COAC. And then secondly, we will look into the need for speed bumps or speed humps in the parking lot in relation to the new church. Those are the only things to follow up.
Okay, thank you.
Did you want, I also have two items I want to present to you.
Go ahead.
The first one is, it'll be up in a moment. I want to talk about the P&Z appointments. There are terms of 3 P&Z board members that are expiring on January 31st, 2009. And the Commissioner Gelzer and Commissioner Schlosser wish to be reappointed, and they're eligible for reappointment. And the Vice Chair, De Broekert, has served the 3 full terms and is not eligible to serve a 4th. What we will be doing is the staff will be initiating a process for recruitment and appointment of a new Planning and Zoning Commission member. The Council Subcommittee will recommend appointment to the City Council. And the staff will also advertise at the same time for the board members for City's Board of Adjustment. Board member Schlosser's term expires on the board on January 31st, 2009. So we will be bringing that back to you as we get recruitments done. The next item, you asked about Vanita last week. And so we just wanted, this is the last meeting in this council chambers. And so the next meeting, we're going to be at Vanita. So we wanted to make sure that the public knew where it was. And we also want to make sure you know where it is. The address is 145th Avenue and West Van Buren. And it's the Goodyear Justice Center. And it's part of the Vanita development. The renovation of the facility is nearing completion, and if you haven't seen it, it is really impressive. I mean, it's going to awe you, I think, especially after this.
There you go.
Doesn't take much.
Furniture installation is beginning today, and the court operations at the new facility begin Monday, December 1st. This is a little hard to see, but just to orient you with where it is, we have the City Hall on the far right. I'm having trouble reading it, but that is the City Hall, the IOB building. And then further to the west, you have Vanita, and you have the Goodyear Community Development and Engineering offices highlighted there. You have the Goodyear Police and Fire Administration highlighted in the other building. And then in the third building, the furthest west, is the Goodyear Justice Facility. So that's where it's located. The current courts on Litchfield Road will be closed for service Monday, November 24th, so next Monday, through Sunday, December 1st. The court staff is packing and relocating to the new facility during this period. First court docket will occur Monday, December 1st, 2008, and the first council meeting will occur Monday, December 8th, 2008. There is not a council meeting the first Monday because of the move, and so this is the schedule that we'll be following. This is a floor plan of the building. East is, well, on this, east is north. I mean, so if you're looking at it, east would be behind the building, so that would be to your north on the screen. To the west would be the front, and that's the front where you drive up to, would be the bottom of the picture. And so to the south is to the far right of the screen, and to the north is to the far left of the screen. And the council chambers are on the left half of the building. You can see the little chairs in that. There are going to be 175 capacity in the council chambers. And that's compared to tonight, we have 55, we're about in this room. So it's going to be, 3.5 times the present council chambers. And we will have the ability to seat an additional 50 people in the far left south corner where it says jury assembly. There will be an additional 50 people that can be seated in there should the need arise. So we can seat 225 people at a council meeting.
Wow.
We have executive sessions in the jury deliberation room, the jury D, which is right in the middle behind the council dais. And that is a table that seats 12 people, and that room will be available at any time that an executive session is called. Parking for the council and the staff will be behind the building, so it'll be on the top of the page, and you can access the building from the rear. So the council's and the staff's parking will be to the north there, or to the east actually. The public's parking, which will be 70 spaces in the front of the building and 100 spaces to the south of the building. So there's 170 vehicles that can park for the public in that immediate area. So it'll be very convenient compared to nights here when we have to shuffle around. The table for the work sessions, we're having milled right now. There will be in front of the council dais, there will be a large table that we will be able to have put up, and it will seat 12 people. So we plan for 7 council members, the city attorney, the city clerk, myself, and 2 other staff members if necessary. And it will be a round oblong table so we can sit across from each other and have much more informal conversations. There are enhanced audio and visual benefits to this new facility. It includes better microphones and louder volumes. So they will be a lot easier to work, and there should not be any feedback or anything like that. And there will be larger video screens with enhanced resolution and more bandwidth for broadcasting. So we're really making a step forward in everything about this facility. So that's it in a nutshell. The increase in the size of 14,000 square feet over this facility. 2 courtrooms or 1 large courtroom can be configured. There's 2 courtrooms which become 1 council chambers, and so if you put the room divider in, you can imagine 1 smaller courtroom to the left and the larger council chambers to the right. Separate conference rooms and private meeting spaces are available adjacent to the courtroom, and that will be convenient for public. Members of the public can go in and watch or whatever. back of the house entry for the court staff and the city council. This shows you some of the features of the building. Starting in the upper right-hand corner, that's looking at the dais and the mayor's seat. It's very similar to the council dais here. There is a handicapped ramp up to the dais at the far left or the far right of the picture, so it is totally handicapped accessible. The left picture, that's where the wall is. You can see it's sort of in a shadow there. That is a folding wall that can close off and divide the council chambers. So that will be where the judge's chambers or the judge sits during the courtroom. And then the bottom picture on the right shows the whole room standing about where the staff will be sitting. And it also, you can see on the far right-hand side, the folding wall where it goes there, where the divider is. And then the far left is a picture of the hallway in the rear of the building. You will be impressed as you enter the front of the building also, because the lobby is very spacious and it's very high ceiling, and so it appears like a court facility should. It looks great. And I believe, I don't know if Jeff ever made the final decision, I believe we are going to have an American flag and an Arizona flag hanging in the front of the lobby as you walk in. That's it, Mr. Mayor. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, or Jeff is here, he could answer them. Questions?
Is that a pillar that we see in the middle of that
It is.
room? There's no way to get around that, is there?
Okay, are there any other inquiries of staff by council? Vice Mayor?
I have one thing for you to look into, not necessarily respond to right now, but one call last week, second was kind of like okay, I was notified. Second call was, okay, maybe this is an issue. Third call today I got from a third local business wanting us to encourage local purchasing and local procurement of supplies, and it was 3 different businesses that I've received the phone calls from over the last week or so, venting some frustration about contractors outside the city limits or outside of our region not recycling our own city dollars within our city and stimulating the economy. Obviously, the economy being down, people are starting to get frustrated, look at the bottom line, and government contracts are one place they can look. So if we don't have a program to encourage our staff, I know, being a former city staffer myself, I could make decisions up to $5,000 or $10,000. If we don't have a program encouraging city staff that are in those independent kind of purchasing decision-making modes to get at least one bid from or make an attempt to get one bid from an internal city, and what I mean by internal, I mean within the city of Goodyear, contractor or provider of services or the such. It'd be nice to look into that, or John, if you can get back to me and let me know.
I sure will.
Kind of where we're at on that kind of issue.
If I may add to that, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
That's the reason I asked. I asked our city manager to give me a list of all our contractors that provided us everything other than the contracts in the ballpark. I wanted just mostly O&M, because I have had several inquiries from merchants in the area also. And that's one of the reasons I wanted that. I was going to explain all that to you when we met this week, so that will be one of my agenda items. And
thank you.
I appreciate you getting that information for me, because it's very informative. It was a lot more detailed than I expected. But Finance Department and whoever else worked on that, I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Councilmember Osborne?
Just wanted to update you all a little bit. These meetings that I've been having with all of our superintendents and all of our principals are going very well. A lot of great ideas are coming out of the talks. One thing that did concern me that some of these principals are stating to me is that, and it's not in every district, but it's enough that's being said that I wanted to bring it to management's attention to ask for some help with this. Some of the schools are having the families coming to the school administrators, the school principals, staff there at school, needing help. And a lot of the people there of staffing of the schools don't know where to refer them, don't know where to send them. Some schools are okay, other ones, they don't know what to do. And so I was really thinking that some kind of packet, community services packet or something that could be given to the schools that said, hey, here's who to talk to at City Hall. Then they can have listing of referrals for different nonprofits, whatever it may be. But, I can understand why our citizens are going to the schools first. They feel that comfort level. They have a trust factor there. City is kind of intimidating. And so we want to make sure that those schools have the available contacts that we have, that we would send them. So one school also said, I don't know what your school's Parks and Rec programs are. We need some of those flyers, and so that could be added to that packet also. So anyway,
Okay.
that's it.
Just on that point, this last In Focus was the first time that we published the whole thing in the In Focus that went to everybody's home. So.
That might help.
Well, it went to their homes,
But we'll check on that.
but it may not have gone to the principals.
Okay, just last comment then. We had a tough agenda tonight, really, and I want to compliment the council and the staff. Handled it very well, actually. And then lastly, to John and Brian and everybody, you were superb today on this orchestration of the groundbreaking. It was a very good event, and everybody agreed with that.
Wonderful.
So, meeting is adjourned.
Let's go. Did I win?
You